On the lamp, sweeps the house, searches carefully until she finds it. And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together, saying, "Rejoice with me, I have found the piece which I lost." Searches carefully until she finds it. And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together, saying, "Rejoice with me, I have found the piece which I lost." Likewise, I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. First, there was simply loss, a natural loss. A sheep gets lost. Second, it was an accident. You lose something, and all of us have lost something. Sometimes you even lose somebody's name. You might call a Susie. You might, whatever her name is, and call her Susie instead. And the unique thing about this, the way that this chapter starts, in the first verse, in the 15th chapter, then all the tax collectors, I like picking this out just before April 15th. All the tax collectors and the sinners drew near him to hear him. And the Pharisees and the scribes complained, saying, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." The religious leaders of the day were quite upset with Jesus because he had a message to the lost. He had a message to the individuals that needed to hear it. And Jesus started out with these two little simple parables about a lost sheep and about a lost coin. And those religious leaders, they were getting on board. People were watching them, and they're in agreement. And then, he's got them all set up. And he starts to talk about the parable of the prodigal son. Then he said, in the 11th verse, a certain man had two sons. And the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me." So he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and journeyed to a far country. And there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose severe famine in that land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and sent him to his fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, but no one gave him anything. You know that part of the story. Here's a young man saying, "Daddy, I deserve what's rightfully mine, and I want it right now. I've made my mind up. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do it when I want to do it. I want my inheritance right now." You know the story. He went out. It wasn't long before it was gone. And he found himself eating with the swine. The 17th, but he came to himself and he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants." Many times when this is preached on, they talk about this great revelation that the young man comes to. But I still don't think that he's there yet. The writer of this book that I'm studying, my study mate, we're looking at this thing. And more you start to understand how this is simply a story that is focused upon the Father and not the Son. And he arose and came to his father in the 20th verse. But when he was a great way off, his father saw him, and had compassion, and ran, and fell on his neck, and kissed him. And the son then says to the father, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and in your sight I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring out the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fatted calf here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be merry. Heavenly Father,